Hello, Facebook. I'm going to just wait a few minutes for some people to show up and grab all my notes. Sorry about that. Hello. I am excited for today's presentation. So I'm going to give a few minutes for people to come in. My daughter will probably jump in the room soon when she comes home from school. Hi, Zoe. This is my daughter, Zoe, coming in. What's up, honey? Honey, go downstairs.
No.
Yeah, go ahead and go downstairs and get some snacks. I think she was looking to play with my phone, but obviously I'm using it right now. Hi, Katie. How are you? Good to see you here. Just taking some time to set up. Wait for a few people to jump on this sunny Friday afternoon. But it's sunny here in Pennsylvania, but it's so cold. Oh my gosh. It's insanely cold, but sunny. So I think I'd rather have sunny and cold than rainy and warm, or unseasonably warm and rainy. But I'm going to get started in just another minute or two. Let me see the time. 3:02. Okay. So today is Friday. I hope everyone has had a good week. And it never... Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks. Hey, Chris. How are you? So I am going to get started in just a minute. Waiting on... hopefully a few more people will come. So this is wave. Hi, Chris. I hope you can jump back on, Katie. That was... Some people, I guess, have problems with their phone getting on Facebook Live. That sucks. Ah, hearts. There you are. Here comes my daughter. Hi, Amelia. So, and someone else is here. Hello, hello. So, welcome, everyone. My name is Gina Medality. In case you don't know me, my blog is... Hi, this is my daughter, Amelia. You want to pop on and say hi?
Hi.
That's her eyeball. Okay, go downstairs. Hi, everyone. Hi, so welcome everyone. My name is Gina Medality. If you don't know me, I run the blog embracingimperfect.com. I've been running that since 2002. And I am an autism mom and mom of a lovely lady with Down syndrome. And so today we are going to talk about protocols. I kind of geared the invite to this to people who have children on the spectrum with severe autism. But you can use these same tips and tricks if you have a child with any other kind of disability and disorder. So today's topic is how to find the right protocol to help your child. So it's very important that you know what you're doing, you know how to get in it. Hi, Katie, you're finally in. And so I have 4 steps that I use to choose whenever I'm doing a new protocol or an old protocol for my kids. So I'm going to go over what that process is. Well, of course, I'm going to tell you what a protocol is and what the process is to choose. So if you have a child, particularly if you have a child on the spectrum, there's protocols for just about everything. Like, for example, there are protocols, believe it or not, for Down syndrome, but there's not that many. They're very, the underlying biochemistry of Down syndrome is so very rigid in place that there's, hi Courtney, how you doing? There's not a whole lot of things that you can do for it, but there are some protocols out there. But for autism, it's a totally different story. There are dozens and dozens of protocols that you can try to help your child. And if you're just sitting down and you're trying to figure out, you're going to be so totally overwhelmed. So these steps will help you pick the right protocol for your child. and for your family. So I just wanted to share with you my 4 steps that I take. And you know what? Sometimes I go in there, and sometimes I'm on a lot of lists with people who recover their kids or have children on the spectrum or have children they're helping through biomedical. And sometimes even then, I just hear everybody's story of this worked and this worked and this is great and that is great. And I just get so overwhelmed. So this is something that I use as well to calm the overwhelm. And it, like I said, there's just dozens and dozens, if not more, of protocols you can use for your child. So, well, let me get to what is a protocol. So a protocol is a series of steps. It's usually, I actually wrote this down somewhere and I don't have it right here. So a protocol is actually like a series of steps and products that you use in conjunction to achieve a particular means. Would you just put very simply, when our daughter was not sleeping through the night and she was 5 years old and she hadn't been sleeping through the night for all her life, a friend of mine told me, well, why don't you remove dairy from her diet? And that could be looked upon as a protocol. Hi, Zoe. Okay, honey, can you go downstairs, please? I'll join you a little later. So that could be looked at as a protocol because you're taking your end goal is to get your child to sleep through the night. And we had tried other what I would call protocols as well. We had tried, for example, certain dosages of melatonin. We had tried certain dietary things that were not removing the dairy, but then we went and we tried removing the dairy, and it was extremely effective within less than 2 weeks getting her to sleep. So a protocol is you were determining an end goal and you were using some kind of product or some kind of means to achieve that end goal, and you're following, hi Denise, how are you? And you're following it through. So that's what a protocol is. So obviously, then step 1 has to be, what are you healing? So now you're going to go, oh, well, if it's autism, we're healing autism. But no. You have to get specific to the symptom that you need to heal or want to heal. You're going to find in your research that a lot of them are intertwined, and you can use one protocol to attack many symptoms. But I think you just really have to get down to, first of all, what is the most challenging, difficult, complex issue in your life right now? Is it that your child cannot communicate? Is it self-injury? Is it like our very first experience was the sleeplessness, not sleeping through the night? Is your child having a lot of, do they have skin issues like eczema, severe eczema, or even allergy, rashes, hives? Does your child, is your child having problem, is your child constipated or has a lot of diarrhea? Does she not go to the bathroom at all? Is she in diapers even though she's at advanced age? Whatever it is it behavioral? Is it head banging? Is it inability to socialize? When Zoe was little, for a long time, she parallel played instead of interacting with her peers, and one of the dietary changes we did actually improved that, and she started engaging with her peers. So the first step number 1, is find the particular thing that you want to solve. Don't, I just want my daughter to be happy. No, what is the physical or the behavioral or the social symptom that you are trying to heal to help her improve her life? So once you do that, now your next step is going to be research, because you need to know what sort of things address the issues. So as I said, when our daughter wasn't sleeping, we knew about melatonin. We also knew about things like the more traditional, old-fashioned therapeutic way of doing things, like don't feed her after a certain hour, don't give her liquids after a certain hour, don't put anything in her room. But what was really going on was she was having issues with her cortisol, and that was being impacted by the dairy, by caseins, which are milk proteins. And so once we learned that, when we took the dairy out, because that was what was keeping her in. But we actually, honestly, for my very first protocol, I didn't do any research. I was just desperate. I just tried knocking milk out of their diets for a couple of weeks, and that worked. But I recommend, if you're going to try to find something, you're going to have to try to look and see what it is that she needs, and what is the physical or the social or the behavioral symptom that you want to cure. And then you go back in and you do your research. So for example, kids with autism commonly have gut issues, and commonly that manifests as constipation. A lot of kids have constipation with diarrhea. A lot of kids get encopresis, or stooling, which is they regress and they start, they're unpotty trained. They start making in their pants, which can be contributed, which can be part of what's going on in their gut. Part of what's going on in their gut might be candida. It might be parasites. It might be small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is usually candida. It can be a lot of different, it can be commonly that we've heard the term leaky gut, right? So first you want to figure out what is the symptom that I am most want to heal, and then you start doing your research. And again, once you start doing your research, you'll find that there's a lot of things connected. For example, my other daughter, who has Down syndrome, has the MTHFR gene SNP, and what that means is, for her, is that her body doesn't really process out toxins that well. But there's a lot of things that go hand in hand with it, like B12. She's usually B12 deficient. Commonly, you know, it's not like she gets the normal amount of B12 that a person without that gene SNP would have. So as I was doing research on MTHFR, I discovered that chapped lips, broken lips, is a very common. Zoe's just getting some paper. She has like a chapped lip that like it never goes away. It's almost like a cut, and it goes away from time to time. No, she's just repeating me. Okay, but that is part of the MTHFR thing that a kid can get from the B12 deficiency, is the chapped lip. That never goes away, and it doesn't matter how much water she drinks. It's something related to the deficiency. So as you find these things out, then you can seek the protocol that works for you. Hold on, my paper fell. Sorry about that. So you need to find out, as you're doing your research, you need to find out, does it work? Now, a great tip, and it's not going to be easy to do, it's going to take you a while. You have to be involved with your community. I do it through Facebook. You have to be involved with the community of people who have children on the autism spectrum that they are actively healing their medical and biomedical issues. And you have to find the community directed towards the generic recovery, to find out what kind of protocols you can do and use. And then you also, when you're in there, when you find, let's say you decide to do homeopathy, then you need to really find a community that is also doing homeopathy for healing negative gut issues in autism, so that you can ask questions and you can have support while you're going through the protocol. So a big question here also when you're doing your research is, does it work? Are there people who this has really worked for? Now, the only thing I'm going to caution you is you might go into a group and it works, and then you realize that everybody in the group has a baby, an infant, or a 2-year-old or a toddler, and you have a teenager. And then you're going to see things like maybe things you've already been through, that maybe your kid had a regression at puberty. So if your kid had issues at puberty, you want to find a group of support of people who are raising children in puberty through adulthood. But if you have a baby or a toddler with autism, then you want to find that age group, because that's going to help you coordinate. And sometimes So for me, I personally believe that because autism, these negative issues in autism, because they are partially environmental toxic insults, in other words, their environment is poisoning them, and things in their environment like fluoride in the water, glyphosate in their food, etc., heavy metals. Because I believe that progressively they're going to get worse over time, and a lot of times, so that if you might see somebody on a protocol who has a 2-year-old, and then within a year this child is miraculously fine, and it's not working for your child because your child is 10 or 12 or 14 and has a lot more damage to work through that she's been exposed to over the years. So, but you want to know that it works. You want to hear people in there going, this worked for me. And you want to be in a group. I'm not saying that you don't want to be in groups where they sell products. That's fine too. But you want to be in more like a generic group where they're just coming up with different kinds of recovery. And there are people in that group saying, this really worked well for me. One of my favorite groups on Facebook is Recovering Kids. It's also a website. It's got a more complicated name than that. Just go to recoveringkids.com and look for her Facebook group. And there's so many. I'm in part of like a ton of groups where we have children that we're trying to help and heal. So just look on Facebook for them. That one is just a very good one because she runs multiple groups. And there's a ton of data. There's years and years and years of expertise in there. And there's always parents saying, this worked, this didn't, this is what I know you have to be careful of. So that'll be step 2. Do your research, including, does it work? And do your research, including what's the protocol I'm interested and curious about? Can I find a group that I can ask about that protocol? And does it work? So step number 3 is once you kind of have an idea of a protocol that you want to do, now your next step of research is what is involved. What kind of supplements do they have to take? What kind of, what do I need to keep track of? How often will I need to change things and up dosage? How do I get started? Do I get started slowly? How long does it take to add in things? So in here, once you've picked that protocol, you need to find a group that supports that particular protocol. So we were doing Nemechek protocol, so I am in the Nemechek protocol support group. I'm going to be doing a protocol for my other daughter called which is a Nutravine based protocol, and I'm in their beginners group. I'm trying to think of the groups that I'm in. I know there's another group that I used to be in, but in other words, there's targeted groups for healing using that particular protocol. So find those particular protocols and the support groups that go with them so that you can ask the questions. A really good group will have, here's an example. I'm in Nemechek protocol group. I bought the book. It was like $10 on Kindle, and I'm reading the book, but the group itself has extensive notes on how to get started, what the process is, what the products are you need, which brands you should be using that are safer and not and pure, because that's a huge issue when you're buying, when you're treating with foods or supplements or CBD oil, whatever you're using. It's really important to get clean, pure products that are recommended. So that's the other thing. What's involved? Do I have to do any testing? Do I have to do things on a particular hour by hour rotation? Okay, I can't believe that's on the whole time. Okay, so gather as much information. For example, I know a lot of people who have done chelation. If you are doing chelation, you have to do it in a particular, very formatted way. You have to give your child breaks. There's a really very intense focus process on how to do chelation. Hi, Mary Rose. And, I've never done it and I won't, but There is a very systematic approach. Nemechek protocol, it's a very simple approach. It's just the daily supplements. CBD oil, hi Emily. You start at one level and progress until you see changes. You don't know, nobody has the guidebook on how much CBD oil you need to give. Homeopathy is similar. You will start small and slowly, and you kind of step back and view, do we need to change something up? Homeopathy, I said homeopathy, didn't I? One thing with homeopathy is you really should be working with a practitioner, because you need someone to guide you, unless you are going to do, I know people who've done, they loved it and then they just decided to study themselves. But it's really like getting a certificate in something. It's intensive study. So you want to work with a practitioner. Some things you don't have to work with practitioners. Some things you should. Some things you will need a prescription for this or for that. So you'll need a doctor who can work with this particular item. Other things, if you wanted to use hyperbaric oxygen chamber, HBOT, I know plenty of people who've used it. Well, you need to know if you have one near you. Do you have one you can access? Do you have a person who is going to put your child in it? You'll probably need some kind of doctor who focuses on autism, and you'll probably need to pay out of pocket for that. Probably you're like 99.9% gonna have to pay out of pocket for a hyperbaric chamber. Or do you need to rent one? Because you can rent one too. So you need to know all these little details for the protocol that you are implementing to heal your child's issue. So step 3, learn all that stuff that's involved. So step 1, what are you healing? In particular, what is the specific symptoms you were healing? Step 2, do your research. Find out if there is a protocol that works, and find that community. That's all under research. Does it work? What's involved? Who's doing it? All under research. And then step 4. Step 4 is a little more personal, because once you have the tools laid out of what it is, okay, so I need a homeopath. She is going to be prescribing treatments. I'm going to need to purchase those treatments. I'm going to need to implement them over time. I'm going to need to be extremely observant of my child. Chelation has worked for so many people. I'm going to try chelation. I need a doctor who will prescribe I believe it's called EDTA, don't quote me. I will need to be Johnny on the spot with this. I will need to do the 4 days, the on, the off, the break time. I will need to be religious for it so they don't have free metals flowing around their body. I'm going to do Nemechek. It's 3 products. I will gradually get them in, make sure her system's sensitive, because I know my child is sensitive. And then I will graduate more and more. I know that I need to buy I need to keep up to date with the website to see if they recommend different products because something was found not to be pure. So that is what you're going to need to know all that stuff for step 4, because step 4 is, should I do this protocol? Okay. And that has two parts to it. Part number 1 is, can you afford it? Because people, there's protocols that are going to cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month. We have, the best thing we've seen work on Zoe is $90 a bottle. And I can't afford it right now. I have an old bottle of it. I don't know if it works anymore because it's old, but it was, let me tell you, instantaneous. I have 150 million bottles of cheaper protocols that people said was instantaneous and didn't work. So that's, hi Kelly, how you doing? That's how it goes. You don't really know what's going to work on your child's system. You don't know what's going to work instantaneously. You don't know what's going to work in 8 weeks. That's part of your research too, though. You should get an idea about how long it takes, and do you need to change something up if it doesn't work in 2 months or 3 months, Or do you need to completely trash the protocol and start with something else if it's not working? What is the usual time if it's not working instantaneously? Then what? We had, I forget what it's called, saw palmetto. We had tried saw palmetto for the kids because we thought everything, actually there is a connection to hormonal, there's a hormonal etiology for some of their issues because when they hit puberty, things changed. The problem is I tried saw palmetto and I spoke to the expert who recommended it, and she said if you don't see changes in 2 or 3 days, it's not working. And we'd been on it like 2 weeks. So I was like, okay. And I was very fortunate that the person who makes the brand I returned the bottle. You know, I said it wasn't working, and she was like, I don't want you to pay for it, then return the bottle. That will almost never happen. But there's some wonderful people out there who will give you samples of things. Doctors won't. Doctors usually work with particular supplement companies, and they're going to go, well, this supplement, I can get it, you know, I'll get you a package and it'll be cheaper, but it'll be like a $200 package. So the last time we tried supplements, that's what we happened. And then we bought some of the supplements on our own on cheaper places. Amelia, I'm in the middle of something. Okay, so you need to know if you can afford it. And the next thing as well is if you can, now I want to also make a, if you cannot afford it, you have to kind of like change the paradigm about, I need to mortgage my house to afford this protocol that you don't even know will work. My personal feeling is if you cannot afford it, it is not meant for you to use. And that's just it. I'd love to try hyperbaric chamber, but it's not around. It wasn't that just that it was costly. At the time it was offered to us, we could afford it, and the doctor really wanted us to try it. And I heard a lot of people say great things about it, but schedule-wise, I would have had to rip them out of school. Chris would have had to take short days. It's an hour and 15 minutes away drive. It was logistical nightmare and expensive and not covered by insurance. So I was like, you know what? We can't do it. My husband really wanted to do it. But then I looked around and it does work for a lot of people, and it also doesn't work for a lot of people. It's like a 50-50 protocol. So I've heard great things and I've heard zero results. So you kind of have to do the calculus in your head. Is this worth time, effort, distance? Am I going to be Johnny on the spot with chelation? Because if you're not, do not do that. That is, it has a high risk factor. So if you're not going to be religious with the protocol, if you're more laid back type person, don't do it. Do an easier protocol, at least to start. That was something it's always a challenge for me to do something very complicated with my children. So when I did Nemechek, it was very affordable. It's olive oil and inulin. It's the high quality, high end. You can't just get any olive oil. It has to be their olive oil organization, COOC certified. Because olive oil can be tainted easily. So you had to get the right olive oil, the Nordic Naturals or Now Foods. You wanted the fish oil and the inulin brand. I forgot what the name of it was, but they had gummies and Target stopped selling them in the middle of the protocol. So that was a pain in the neck, but it's a relatively affordable protocol. I have to say that because some protocols, they just cost a lot of money. They just do, and there's nothing you can do about that. And especially if you're already working on a clean, organic, gluten, dairy, soy-free diet. So, in addition to can I afford it, and does it meet my personality, it also has to meet your values. Okay, so I know that people look at me like when I'm nuts, but there's a lot of, so I am a Christian, and there are a lot of protocols that kind of have a sort of new age component to it, like muscle testing, homeopathy. It's neither here nor there. I know people, for example, who practice Reiki, I don't feel that as a Christian that I feel that God is telling me stay away from those things. Now I've said this before, there's two kinds of homeopathy. Our first homeopath was she was very scientific. She was into the physics and the math, and she would go to these training things that I'm terrible at. I love science, but I'm really bad at physics. Like, I would read the name of the lecture she would go to, and my mind would be blown. I feel like it's like advanced physics. But that's how she was studying homeopathy. A lot of people do what's called integrative homeopathy, which is really, you can call it intuitive, which they are intuiting, I feel like you need to go this way. Or muscle testing, where they use a pendulum, and where the pendulum swings is, should you eat, or should you, how many drops of something, if you, it's fine for some people. But for me, my husband looked at me one day and said, where's she getting her information from? And that freaked me out completely. Because as a Christian, I believe that the door to the things you don't want to go and don't want to be at is very easily opened if you don't have your eyes wide open. But that might not be you. You might be a New Age person. You might be heavily offended by the idea of chelation. I know a lot of people are. There's the what's it called? NMS? I can't remember what it's called. There's another chemical solution thing that everybody says it's bleach. It's not actually bleach because chemistry matters. But I don't really know that many people using that protocol. I've heard rumors about it, and that's it. I don't know. I think in all my years of seeing people run different protocols, I only ever saw one person who did it. I've run into lots of people who've done CBD oil and homeopathy and elixirs, for example. Something else you could do. Hyperbaric chambers. I've met people who've done that. I've met all kinds of people who've done all kinds of protocols, but you need to know that it needs to fit. It needs to fit your budget. It needs to, you can't be robbing a store somewhere to pay for your child's treatment. It's just, if the fiscal door is closed, the door is closed, moved on. There's lots of other things you can try. It has to meet your values, whatever your values are. It has to meet them. If you're vegan, for example, you want to make sure that whatever supplements are not using animal parts or anything derived from an animal, right? And if you're vegetarian, you don't want, it's slightly different, but you want to make sure that you don't have those animal products in the supplements or whatever you're using. So whatever your values are, keep that in mind as you're reading and you're doing the research on what's involved with the protocol. Keep your budget in mind. Keep your personality in mind. Can I really do this? Can I really follow through with this? I know people who, I don't understand. They spend something like 20 hours a day treating their kids and they have no life. But, that's, God bless them, but that's not me. I need to be able to, this is the time I can do, I'm also a very forgetful person. I try to write things down. I have calendars everywhere, and even still, I leave things out to remind myself. I even still have a hard time with protocols. So that is, you have to take into account all those things. And then take into account, too, your child. What can your child do? What can your child tolerate? But just a little bit, because you are the parent. And if your child had cancer, for example, or some other debilitating disease, you would force them to do what they had to do. So don't play too heavy on what can my child tolerate? Believe you me, I have had my kids swallow all kinds of things. You can find it. I'll put it in applesauce. I will mush it up. I'll dissolve it. I'll give them a glass of water. I'll do whatever. I'll hold their mouth shut. But they are going to take that protocol. So, what you got? Hi, Christina. How you doing? So you can You can be respectful of your child, but again, you're the parent. They're going to take it because it's something that might heal them. And then as you're going along, I would say keep observations, right? Like I said, know how long before you're supposed to see some kind of improvement. Know the window. And if you get to the end of that window and you're really not seeing any improvement, or things are worse, you have to be careful when things are worse, because that could mean they're detoxing. So you have to know. That's why you have to be in the right group, because you can say, look, has anybody had XYZ reaction with their child? Is this the protocol? A lot of times our kids, they don't speak, or they're nonverbal, or they're partially verbal, or they verbalize through echolalia, or whatever. They can't really communicate to you that something's going on over here that you don't know about, that is a change. I remember one time we had the speech therapist when we were 2 or 3 years into a very strict diet. She was giving my kids marshmallows. Marshmallows. You know what marshmallows are? It's an allergen wrapped in sugar, loaded with glyphosate. That's what marshmallows are. Marshmallows are probably the most toxic thing on the planet. And Skittles. Skittles were what I call the ADHD candy. Because it's literally high in sugar. Oh my gosh. So when we found out she was giving marshmallows and Skittles, and we already had food in our IEP, we had to put our foot down. So you have to check in with the people who are caretaking your kids and make sure they're not doing something that's counter affecting your protocol, because it happens. It definitely happens. That's it. That's the 4 steps to finding a protocol. So all a protocol is, it's a series of steps and products that help your child overcome some physical, medical, or other issue. You can work with a doctor if you have a doctor who will use protocols. There's a lot of protocols that a lot of doctors won't try because there's no benefit to them, and there's risk. There are doctors who are autism doctors who will, they will make you pay out of pocket, they will give you protocols, and they will sell you products because they need to make a living. So you cannot blame them for that. So right now, just to let you know, like I said, we're going to do Nutri-Vene TNI for our daughter Amelia coming up. Not yet though. And we are doing CBD oil, and I believe we're trying a new probiotic coming up for Zoe. So that is what we are doing, and we're going to be looking into it. And so one of the things I'm giving away today, I've got a lovely little package that I got in one of my blogger box from, it's not CBD oil, I'm sorry I said that it was, it's hemp oil, and it's cream and a couple of other hemp items I am giving away from my company, NYR Organic, ginger vanilla shower gel. And I'm going to be giving you a free copy of my Autism Protocol worksheets. I just charge $4.99 for them, so it's not a big deal, but they're these sheets I've created that you put in month overview, and I have a list of things, and for each of these items that I have, diet protocol, practitioner therapies, education, health issues, it's a blank booklet, and you can print it out and you can put in what your child is doing. I even have, make sure I have a section on self-care and my support systems in there too, because mama, you got to take care of you. Can't just take care of your kiddo. And then each sheet has its own, the protocol, the start date, the end date, specific products, date and observations, negative, positive reactions, all kinds of things like that. You can use these sheets to manage your team at your child's school, to manage your IEP, So I'll be giving away one of those. I will not be doing the giveaway right now. I will be doing the giveaway on Monday. And hopefully you will enjoy the products I send. And you can, if you have any questions or anything like that for me, please ask. Please let me know if you have, if you would like, if you have any, if you want to know where you can find more information about different protocols and different products for autism in particular. A great place to go is Autism One. Because every year they have a conference, and in that conference they have a session on something like 30 protocols. It's like the biggest probably special needs conference in the world, I would say. They have, I actually went through, like a couple of years ago, I was going to do a whole series on every protocol, but it got overwhelming because a couple of years ago I wrote down every protocol that they had covered at Autism One, and from my research, it was 52. But I didn't end up doing that because protocols do change. For example, I said the thing about on Nemechek, we need to use olive oil. So California Olive Ranch was the brand we were using that was COOC certified, and now only like 1 or 2 of their products are COO. It's the Council of Olive Oil Crafters, perhaps. So they are not, a lot of their products fell off the certification. So we can't use that anymore. We have to use oils that are COOC certified for their purity. Because there's a whole big thing with olive oil. Olive oil is tainted. It's cut with GMO oils, even if it says virgin, even if it says organic, it doesn't necessarily. There was, I think it was UC of Davis, University of California, Davis, that did some studies a couple of years ago and found GMO, glyphosate, in what was supposed to be organic olive oil. So you have to be really careful with your olive oil, even if it says organic. The other thing is GM. There's other protocols that have changed over the years, so that's why I never did the series, because the protocols do change, they adjust, and they are different.